and come check y'all out.
Well, we're one of my favorite places. Conversation with one of the greats and what this all said. I'm 𝗠𝘁𝘁. I'll talk with him.
So, fall transit.
Ticket. Hopefully this goes on a replica out of that 20.
Welcome to your live coverage. At 8 pounds with the current right up there.
See how it shakes out? That's it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dog Talk West Virginia. This is part 2 of your double live event this weekend. I hope you've had a wonderful weekend thus far. I know it's winding down for a lot of folks. I will rub it in just a little bit. We just started vacation, so I'm going to try to sneak out, hit the water a little bit. Mom and Dad are going to be sneaking up to Sutton doing some camping. So hopefully sneak up there, do a little fishing with the family, get on some big spotted bass. We know what Sutton's kind of known for. And, of course, some giant largemouths are going to try to sneak out there. But like I said, this is your double live. I am your host right here on Dog Talk, 𝗠𝘁𝘁, where we cover everything bass fishing in and around West Virginia. Tonight's episode, let me throw it up here for you. Of course, we've got your unscripted live episode with Matt Ball. This is the 4th unscripted live, kind of in the series we want to dive in. Honestly, unscripted for me, unscripted for the guest. I have no notes in front of me. They have no notes. We haven't really talked leading up to this. So we're just going to be talking everything fishing, kayak fishing. Of course, Matt Ball is standing by via video chat, and we're going to bring him on to talk a little bit about everything, just kind of see where the conversation goes. So if you don't know Matt Ball, you're 2016 KBF National Champion. Not only that, but a recent winner, KBF Trail Event Winner on Lake Monroe, or Monroe Lake, I believe that is in Indiana. And, of course, it could be Monroe for the locals, either way. But so very excited to get Matt on here in just a few minutes. Of course, if you are new here, you can find all of this information right here on the Facebook page at Dog Talk West Virginia. And, of course, try to cross-post all these live videos and any other coverage we have right on the YouTube channel at Dog Talk West Virginia as well. Just a quick reminder, of course, we do have the 2,000 page like giveaway going on currently. We will eventually get to that 2,000 page likes very soon. We're about 500 likes away. That won't take any time. Got a lot of good prizes from these amazing partners that are stepping up to offer up some killer stuff for our viewers. So very excited about that as well. But we're not going to drag us on any further. Blaine, thanks for joining us, buddy. Phenomenal angler right there, Blaine Winters. I believe I just saw that. Blaine, you are heading up to the Susquehanna for the big KBF event coming up. So excited about that. Ben Nowalk's joining in. Thanks, Ben. Greg Tony, one of our #1 fans right here on Dog Talk West Virginia. Thanks for tuning in, Greg. And actually, Greg kind of gave me a quick update from Waits before we jump on to this live interview. But Waits from Summersville, the night tournament up there every Friday. Took like almost 11 pounds, right 11 pounds to win. Some big bags. So going to see some big bags continue on. August is usually pretty good till you get into September. And then that daytime bite's a little bit better than at night. But thanks for the update. Tim Isaacs, thanks for joining in. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't done it, like I said, like Dog Talk West Virginia, find that giveaway post pinned at the top of the page. And all you got to do is comment, "Pick me," on that original post to be eligible to win one of those mini prizes. All right. And without further ado, going to bring in my good buddy here. We're going to talk some fishing. Very excited to have him on. And without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Matt Ball. Matt, what's going on, brother? You are live right here on Dog Talk. Thanks for joining me, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, man. I know when we spoke just earlier doing a quick sound test, it's been a while. You're traveling all over. I don't get to make as many kayak events as I would really like to, but it's always a joy to get to run into you and talk to you. And if it's via video chat for a little bit of fish and talk, I'll take that, man.
Absolutely.
Man, I know it's your weekend to work, coming off of a big win on Lake. Do they pronounce it Monroe or Monroe, or what's the deal there?
Monroe, I think is about what everybody called it.
Fair enough, man. A week later, about 4.5 years from your 2016 KBF National Championship, right here, this guy representing at the time Mountain State Kayak Anglers, the state of West Virginia, nonetheless, at that time, your KBF National Champion. Here we are. You've had quite a bit of success over the years since the KBF National Championship, but does it ever get old? That's what I want to know. Does it ever get old, someone introducing you as a 2016 National Champion?
No, never will. Never will. I'm proud of that. I was proud to be the first one, and proud to have got to experience it with all the guys that I did, and you're one of them. We were all staying at a house together down there when that happened. So, a lot of fond memories from that time that I'll never forget, and it's led to a lot of awesome opportunities since then, a lot of them, and I'm blessed, honestly.
Well, yeah, man, and I kind of wanted to jump into that just real quick as far as. Here you are 4.5 years later. I know for anybody, I've never had that kind of win, at that level. And not very many people can say they've had that opportunity to call themselves of a champion of that big of an event. Looking back to 2016, knowing what you know now and seeing the growth of the sport, what it's kind of grown into, what's your thoughts? Compare your thoughts then, knowing that it was a big deal in 2016 to now. How much has changed in your mind as far as the sport in general?
Well, I don't know that the sport's changed. There's just a lot more people doing it. The national championship from KBF has grown a lot as far as numbers, but I think even that year we had over 300, maybe. I can't remember, but I mean, heck, we're talking 500, 600, 700 people now, in that event. But as far as the way I look at the sport, I don't look at it any differently. I still love it. I still enjoy it. I still get that thrill of competition, that competitive side of me. Everybody says, well, why do you got to go competing to enjoy kayak fishing? I don't have to compete to enjoy it, but it just adds that competitive side to my life that I do. I'm very competitive in that, but I also love the camaraderie of it. And that's kind of it. There's more people in it. It has gotten bigger. There's so many more opportunities now than there was. Back then you had KBF, you had the River Bassin, and you had, I think it was I forget what it was called, the KBL, maybe. I can't remember. Kayak Bass League, or
Kayak Bass Series, maybe KBS or something back then. Yeah,
it's I think the one that I think Terry Manley was running at the time. But now you've got some really big events with Bass stepping in. You've got the Hobie Series. KBF is still growing and still an awesome place to participate. And I'm doing them all. But this year, what's been kind of nice, I never have lost that desire to still fish the local stuff. That's honestly, in our state, there are so many incredible And when I say our state, I live in Ohio, but I consider myself a West Virginian. I always will. But, I live in Ohio, but I'm a mountaineer. So, but anyway, in our state, West Virginia, we've got some of the most incredible anglers. And it is harder to win an event in a West Virginia kayak tournament than it is in some of the national events, just because a lot of times the people that are at the top of a lot of these events are from this state. You got Jody Queen, you've got, oh my gosh, Blaine. Man, Blaine's tearing it up this year. There's just anytime you see a group of names from our state that has been competing in kayak fishing, those are names that people are looking out for. I mean, I could name 100 of them.
Oh, easily name. I mean, we could sit here and go through and honestly, really, when I think back, think about that core group that was, and that's not to take away from anybody that has gotten in the sport over the last few years, but I think back of that core group, like you said, that first KBF National Championship, there was 300, ish. I think it was like 360, 370. Yeah, I could be off a little bit, but it was somewhere under that 400 range. And I think back and it was like, dude, we got to compete against 350 other anglers. And now you look at it, I think the last KBF National Championship I qualified for and Dad qualified for, there were 800 qualified anglers at that event. And this is strictly fisherman talk, I'm going to say. And this isn't to be negative at all. But you show up to a field, and there's a lot of variables that come into play, whether you're a local or not a local, a largemouth fisherman, that's your strength, or a smallmouth fisherman, that's your strength. And you're either in that top half of the field or the bottom half of the field coming in. Mentally, experience levels, there's a wide array. It could be big water. I think back at Kentucky Lake. If you've never been on Kentucky Lake, 30-plus mile-an-hour winds, this guy right here knows where to go, how to battle that. But really, all those variables come into play. And, when you show up, like you said, a lot of times, or like I was saying, a lot of times, there's a select group that you really, they're going to be up there at the top. When you fish an event in West Virginia, holy smokes, there's guys and gals, not just guys. There's females out there that'll put a whooping on you, lay the smack down. So I can totally relate as far as the competition level we're blessed to have right here. And like you said, we're claiming you a West Virginian. I know you're right there on the border. Little Hawking area, but
Little Hawking.
We consider you by far West Virginia.
I will always be that. Absolutely. So, but no, and the other thing that I think that's one of the reasons why that has helped me a lot is, and you and I have had this discussion before, around a campfire or whenever, sitting at a cabin, but the numbers have dwindled a little bit because we have about 3 or 4 groups now in West Virginia where it's kind of split people up a little bit. But there for a while, we would have 200 people on some of our waters when we'd be competing against. And what that has prepared me for in the national scene is when you look at a field of a bunch of people and most of the water that I'm fishing nationally is a lot bigger bodies of water, a lot bigger. So, a lot of people freeze up when they get to a boat ramp and there's, 10 or 15 boats at that ramp when they show up. Doesn't really phase us from West Virginia. We're used to it. We'll put in on a tournament on the Greenbrier River and there'll be 15 people floating a 3-mile section. And you got to learn how to catch fish, and you got to learn how to do things that other people may not be doing. You got to learn to just do something a little different. And I think that's what has helped me. I haven't won as much as a lot of guys, but I do take pride in being consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I'll throw you a shout out for that for sure, man. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind when you look and I wish I could pull up all your stats on 𝗠𝘁𝘁 and different tournaments. Of course, you fish so many different things, but if you look back at your record, tournament record, of course, we blunder here or there and struggle, and we all have a tough tournament.
Oh, yeah.
That's just fishing. That's how it is. But you, sir, are very consistent, and that was something that kind of stuck out to me a lot. And I was thinking about this unscripted event and talking with you, and something that always stuck out to me, and I always could never figure out, because I'm one, Dad'll say, and for the ones at home that don't realize, my dad, him and I fish. If I fish a kayak tournament, it's always with my dad. Enjoy that time. But for you as well, Matt, you are known, and this goes all the way back to the national championship. You've never been shy as far as fishing around other people. For example, we always follow the buddy rule when you're fishing out of a kayak. That's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Have a friend, have a buddy close by for safety reasons and everything. But you all have always been known as the group. Man, y'all show up. If I find your group at the ramp, dude, if I see your truck, all the Lehman crew pull in with trailer and all, dude, I know I better go find somewhere else. But honestly, that's what I want to know. That's something good to kind of talk about. How do you stay focused knowing you're going to fish with, say, on a designated float? You're gonna be fishing with four other guys. What's your mind frame going into fishing a tournament and with a section of, say, a river like that? Fishing with a group of folks that big.
Well, I think what's really helped that is I just really enjoy being around all those people, and it takes away. There's guys that literally, and this is no fault to them, but there's guys that literally are as secretive as could be about where they're going to fish, when they're, what they're doing. They won't let anybody, they don't want anybody to know where they're going to be. I wouldn't enjoy spending my time as a loner that way if I'm going to be doing something I love, and that is what this fishing is. Now, granted, you want your own kind of thing within that little section, and that's what, everybody fishes differently. You can follow me down a river and catch fish that I'm not going to catch because you're not fishing the same way. You and I have followed each other down the river multiple times, and you've caught fish that I haven't. I've caught, I remember
Absolutely.
It's been quite a few years back. I put in at Second Creek on the Greenbrier, and I look up and there's Shane throwing a jig along the bank down the bank, and I'm thinking, what? I wouldn't throw a jig on a big flipping jig on the Greenbrier River, but you caught fish on that, But you also learn a lot by fishing with good friends like that because, at the end of the day, I know what worked for me. I see what worked for them, and the next time I go out, that's in my mind. And I take that everywhere I go. I mean, I've learned things from you. I've learned things from the Layman's. I've learned things I learned things from everybody I fish with. And I've been blessed. I've fished with some amazing, Tim Isaacs. He is one of the most underrated anglers that we've got in the sport because,
yes,
he does well. He's consistent. And, but I've learned a lot from him. I'll tell you what I have learned is fish slowing down. Nobody will fish a bank slower than that man. And he'll catch fish that you won't because he'll fish every stick on that bank. And I've learned that. And him and I travel a lot together. And, we're kind of, the odd couple, grumpy, but we work well together. So that it does all right. But no, I mean, I learned from everybody. I mean, I tell you, I spent a week with Drew Gregory at the FLW tournament last year. Him and I traveled up with him in his RV, and we spent the whole week up at Ouachita. And of course, him and I share a very similar mindset on what we're looking for when we're fishing any body of water. And everybody knows what I look for, and that is I look for the rivers part of it. I want moving water. I want I want to take that big body of water and break it down into the smallest section that I can. And him and I fish completely different. You know, I'm more of I fish more finesse fish in moving water sometimes, but I learned a lot from that man. You know, he's one of the greatest we've had in that sport as far, and he fishing with him for a week, I picked up some things that I've always been able to do and done, but I watched him do things, and I think he learned some things from me, you know, some ways that we could, and I think that's how you learn. You're fishing with other people. Granted, you're competing against them, but you're seeing, you just learn. I soak up everything about fishing that I can out on the water. So, you know, I've really tried to be as versatile as I can. You know, I don't want to be the guy that can't go to Guntersville and throw a frog. I am that guy. I don't do very well if I got to go to Guntersville and throw a frog, but I guarantee you I can go try, and I will work my guts out until I figure it out. And same way with buddy of mine, Cody Milton. Everybody knows Cody. You know, I watched him destroy everybody last year at the beginning of the year on an A-rig. Well, I'll tell you what, this old boy's been throwing an A-rig in the last couple of years, and I've caught fish, and I've done well doing it. You know, it's just, you see what people are doing, and you know, everybody pays attention to what other anglers are doing when they're fishing around each other. We all know that we do. So why not learn from that? You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get beat very many times by somebody doing a technique that I don't know how to do, to where I'm going to figure that technique out and learn and become better at it. So, but I always got a spinning rod tied on with a shaky head. When all else fails.
Yeah, for sure. And the ones that don't realize that little tidbit, I'm telling you, put it in your back pocket. And I'll be honest, and the reason is, you know, Matt, let's be honest, 2016 KBF National Championship, I know when I pre-fished for that event, I was slinging a rattle trap, covering a ton of water. Caught a lot of fish. Wish I would have went ahead and entered that open, because, man, I was on some good fish. Had probably one of the best days of my life that last day. But conditions changed, and you picked up a finesse presentation. We all know that story. 412 bait, free minnow,
Yep.
went to work.
And tore them up.
I mean, you really look back at it with that front. We're talking major winds. Snow the final day. It seems like that's kind of a recurring thing around Kentucky Lake. You'd never think they get snow. They don't get it very often, but it seems to always happen in March during the KBF National Championship. But you know, that does speak volumes of being a well-rounded angler. For example, you were talking shaky head. Me personally, I'm a power fisherman. I like to cover a ton of water. If I went out there right now, I could tell you what I'd have tied on. I'd have a square bill tied on, you know, a DT6 or a medium diver, whatever your choice, something set 7 to 10 range. And of course, you know, Cinco in the summertime, but I'm a power fisherman. I like to cover a ton of water, and I think you can still get bites like that a lot of times throughout the year, but there's a time that things really slow down when you have to rely, or not even rely, but you got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to change with the conditions. You got to be able to slow down a little bit. Man, that'll kind of lead me in just a little bit to, it's summertime. I know you talked about your win on Monroe, but in general, if you were to go out right now, here it is, 1st of August, beginning of August, water temps are mid-80s, and let's think it at West Virginia bodies of water. So I won't put you on too big of a spot. Familiar waters. Yeah. If you're going out on a river in West Virginia right now, maybe not right this second, because they're kind of milky and chocolate milk. But, I mean, in your general summertime patterns, low and clear, man, give us some tips. Give the folks at home that might be new to kayak fishing. There could be a specific technique with kayak fishing that helps. But fishing in general, what's your go-to? What are you doing this time of year?
Well, I can tell you, if I'm fishing a river, and this time of the year, generally, if I'm going to go fishing, I am going to go to a river because it's hot and there's shade and it's just more enjoyable to be in a river. And you've been on one of my favorite rivers, the Hocking River. I like to fish that river. It's got some incredible smallmouth in it. But if I was going to go, hit that river right now, I'd have a topwater. I'd have a buzzbait on. You can't hardly beat topwater in the summer at times. Them smallmouth just love it. And I'm always going to have probably a Z-Man Big TRD on a light shaky head tied on that I'm going to throw, and I'm just going to soak that thing and slow it down. I generally always have a square bill in the boat. Sometimes I never throw it, but I like to have that. That's one thing that I've gotten probably a little better at over the last few years is realizing that I'm passing up a lot of good opportunities if I'm not throwing a crankbait at times, just because of the speed of figuring things out with a crankbait, as opposed to constantly just hitting the water and immediately start throwing a shaky head or a jig, because you're going slow. Especially with what I've been doing with traveling and fishing new waters constantly, you don't know what you're getting into at these places. So you've kind of got to go get a little bit of a grocery list of what these areas have. And if in a finesse technique, like throwing a Ned rig or a shaky head isn't a real good way to cover a lot of water. I've learned and gotten a lot of confidence in throwing, crankbaits. And, I'm a big fan of throwing a crankbait and just dragging it through, just literally beating it through everything I can. If I'm not hitting stuff with it, I've figured out that I've got to be beating it against stuff and beating it off the bottom, and then I'm successful with it. But I struggle with suspended fish because I just don't like it. But anyway,
I'm with you 100% there. Suspended fish suck. They are tough to catch for sure.
You can't go wrong with a swim bait. A small swim bait on rivers is going to flat out catch fish. If I'm going to go out here tomorrow and take, basically the way I look at it, if I want to catch fish, I think about what would I tie on for one of my kids or a kid if I was going to take them out and say, I want you to just catch some fish. It is amazing how many tournaments are won by just catching fish. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially this time of the year. You look up and down the leaderboards of all the major events that are happening right now. It's tough, right? Sometimes in the summer, if the key is getting a limit. Okay. And if you can throw something that's just going to put fish in the boat, you're going to be a step ahead of a lot of people. That has been probably one of my keys, is not being afraid to downsize and throw smaller baits to get a limit. Okay. And then trying to figure out how to get that bigger bite later. But sometimes it's tough to put down something that you're catching a lot of fish on to go for those big bites. And that's something that I've worked on over the last few years, and I've gotten a little better at it, trying to get a limit. But boy, man, when you're struggling to get a limit in a day, you can throw on a few things and usually try to get a limit, and that's kind of, I'm not a swing for the fence guy when I'm on the water. I love to fish. I love to catch fish. I have a very low attention span. I get really bored really easily if I'm not catching fish and my mind wanders. So I got to catch fish so I like to catch fish. So, but yeah, like I say, I'm always going to have a top water, a swim bait of some sort tied on, and a shaky head on either a Ned rig and then always got a weightless Senko or a free minnow tied on, always. Period.
Well,
I will never throw a top water without one of those tied on.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
They will miss that. They will miss it, and you will be able to catch them with. You got to have something to follow it up like that with. That'll just sit there. So
yeah. I mean, the chance of a fish generally coming back for that same top water after they've missed a blow up is very slim, and I think a lot of us know that. I can only think of maybe 2 instances when it was just an intense blow up when I could throw back in there and have a fish. And honestly, the only topwater bait that I've ever been successful at that, maybe a popar, obviously, just because it's just kind of laying there. A frog, yeah, a frog. But for open water, the only bait I've ever been successful with that is basically a walk the dog bait. My personal preference is basically a Strike King, Sexy Dog Junior. I like that bait. Perfect size, profile, especially for in and around the state. And that's the only bait. Summersville, we're fishing a night tournament. It's one of our first big wins. My buddy Marty McClanahan and I throw out there. Literally, it was a night tournament. As soon as the sun come up, I mean, you could just barely see. We're up in the river, and we're seeing fish just blow up all on the surface. And I pick up that Sexy Dog, and I chuck that thing over there. A bomb cast. It's only a mile away. Tick, 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 tick. And I'm talking one of the most nastiest, vicious strikes ever. And the fish just misses it. Totally misses it. I pause, I wait. Bait never moves. And before Marty can pick up a drop shot to throw in there, very deep water, which was shocking, just to try to get a follow-up bite. I chuck back in over him, and the fish rolls on it immediately as soon as it hits the water. So it's definitely
it'll happen.
Very, very slim, but a follow-up bait is key. And Blaine commented, a nose hook fluke. Yep. I'm a huge fan, especially on the rivers.
Yep.
And had a guy tell me once that they lived and died by a follow-up fluke for when they were buzzbait fishing.
Yep.
That's
sort of what I do with the free minnow. It's
Absolutely.
Just not nose hooked, because I mean it's basically a lot heavier fluke, and I can throw it farther. That free minnow has just the trajectory to just blast it out there when you need to get it out there. And it's different than the Senko that everybody's throwing.
Yeah.
That's
just a little bit
what
different profile, a little bit different action. That tail dances like crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's what really sets it apart from a lot of baits. And for the ones that don't realize, I don't have one right in front of me. Got one in a box over there. Basically, it looks like a Senko, basically. A little bit rounded of a nose, but it tapers off into a flat tail. It is a phenomenal bait. Russell Johnson, both good buddy, like a brother to, I think, both of us up in PA. Yep. He will attest to that. The only guy I've ever seen throw a weightless grub and catch fish. The only person I've ever seen throw weightless grub.
I've learned a lot from him. Him and I fished together a lot in the last few years, and we do really well when we're fishing together too. So matter of fact, looking forward to seeing him. Hopefully I'll see him next weekend up to Susquehanna. So
yeah, for sure. And man, good buddy Darren Elder, viewer here, commented suspended fish. Buy Panoptics, and we will soon learn they can be caught because you can see them. And that is a big thing when it comes to suspended fish. With the 2D sonar or even side imaging, you're covering some water. You can see some fish out there. Obviously, you can see when they're suspended.
I got a little bit of a taste of that Panoptics. Kurt Smits and I were fishing together, pre-fishing for the I don't even remember what lake it was now. Man, my everything runs together anymore. But where were we? Gosh, I don't even remember where I was. Anyway, and he has that set up now, and it was it was crazy. I'm like,
well, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah, I mean,
it's crazy. I'm like that. I don't know. It could cause you to never leave an area because you'd see all these fish and think, I'm going to catch one of them. It's just, you can literally see fish swimming around. And on a kayak, I thought, well, that's too much. Nah, it's a good setup. He's got a nice, it's sweet. I'm running the Ranch HDS Live, and I was like, really love that unit, but I don't know.
Well, and that's what I was kind of curious. We all know about Panoptics, the technology there, the good, the bad. Humminbird 360s, Lowrance Lives, regardless, technology has came so far. Think back at whenever you and I first started the whole kayak, our own journey of kayak fishing, how much things have changed.
I had a 4-inch Lowrance unit that I won the national championship using, and it worked fine. All I was looking for was depth and water temperature. But boy, I've used it for a whole lot more than that now.
Well, I mean, this actually will kind of roll right into something I was thinking about. Is you've been in it for quite a few years now. You know what it takes to compete. You know the options out there to anglers. There's a lot of people that's crossed over. There's a lot of people that fish both sides, bass boat, kayak, you name it. For the new angler, and there are hundreds, if not thousands across the nation, being exposed, especially right here in West Virginia. It's amazing how many more anglers we've got. Kayaks are being sold out all over the state. Hard to even find just a sit-in pleasure kayak. What would you tell the beginning angler wanting to get into kayak fishing? Give them their basic needs. I know the technology's there to go crazy. You could spend $10K easily on a setup now. I would have never dreamed of that, but it's out there. But for the regular novice angler first starting out in kayak tournament fishing, and we have a ton of options, what would you tell that angler, knowing what you know now, compared to your success too, going back to 2016 with a little bit of nothing compared to the technology we have today?
Well, obviously, and there's so many options out there, but right off the bat, if you're going to be competitive, or if you're going, you can be competitive in a $100 Walmart kayak.
Yes,
it doesn't, that is not what's going to win it for you. Okay. But if you really want to get down to what's going to make you successful, or what's going to make you enjoy it more, there's a big difference. There are guys out there every day in a Walmart kayak that could absolutely smoke you any day of the year if they know how to fish. Yeah. But they're not going to be able to spend from 5:30 in the morning. Well, especially when they're my age. Maybe when they're 20 they can, but at my age, they're not going to spend from 5:30 in the morning until 3 and not get out of that kayak and just go at it as hard as we do. We work hard on a kayak tournament. It's bad. I don't stop to eat or drink. I very seldom eat or drink or anything. I'm just focused. But to be successful is different than being comfortable. Okay. So to be comfortable and successful, you need a kayak that you can sit in all day, or you can stand up in. That is probably, you open up so many more opportunities if you're in a kayak that you can stand up and see, especially in the spring, big time. And also, if you want to throw a frog on Guntersville, you're not going to do it very successfully sitting down all day. Yeah, you can, but it's way more success. You got way more action with a frog rod or a jerk bait rod or anything like that. Being able to stand just opens up more opportunities. It doesn't mean you have to. And there's tons of guys out there that'll never stand in their kayak, but I like to be able to stand up. I like to stand up in the river. I like to be floating down a river and stand up and look for boulders in the water that you're looking across the water, you're not going to see. But as soon as you just get that little bit of elevation and good sunglasses, bam, you can see. And that's the difference between floating down a river and catching 5 fish and floating down the river and catching 20. Yeah, there's a big difference there. The angle of looking down in the water, having a comfortable seat, having a comfortable PFD. And the other thing that I think people overlook is the paddle. Now, granted, I use a motor and I got pedals, but if you're going to paddle a kayak all day, get a good paddle, get a lightweight paddle that's going to be able to. When you're fishing a river and you're not using a motor, and you're not using pedals, which I do a lot of that on especially Mountain State stuff because we don't use motors with them. your paddle's in your hand more than as much as or more than your fishing rod. So if you're going to be spending all day maneuvering a boat with one arm, one hand, and you've got a paddle that weighs 36 ounces or one that weighs 50 ounces, you're going to notice it by the end of the day. Yeah. So that makes a big difference in a river, especially, and if you were paddling long distance. But anyway, good paddle, good PFD, and a comfortable boat. And do you need all the high dollar electronics? No. Now, if you're going to go fish Lake Erie, yeah, you need some good electronics. You're not going to go out on Lake Erie and fish for smallmouth on the main lake without some good electronics, unless you're just drifting.
You got to be able to see the bottom. I mean,
you got to be able to see.
Be able to make out what's going on.
You got to know. You got to have good electronics there, and a lot of lakes, you can be more successful once you learn how to use those electronics. But 90% of the guys out there probably don't use their electronics as much as what you would think.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but when you start talking about a beginning kayak angler or a beginning tournament fisherman, fisherwoman, any angler first starting out, we're going to bodies of water that we're familiar with. We're going to the Elk River. I've floated the Elk River many times.
You don't need it for that. Yeah.
Right. So it's some things are not a have to, but don't expect to take that next step up to a large body of water. And I'm telling you, Kentucky Lake, the first time I ever saw it was in a kayak.
When you drive across that bridge to Paris Landing, it's like, holy smoke, what are we getting into?
Yeah, really. What are we doing out here in a little plastic boat? But it's really cool to see how far things have come as far as the amount of anglers and the community that has just grown over the years to provide opportunities to folks without having to go spend. Even if you decked out a kayak and absolutely decked it out in as much of the top of the line gear you can find, you can easily get into that well under $10,000. And I know that sounds like a crazy number to a lot of folks, but let's face it, Matt, these tournaments are paying out huge payouts now. This is an opportunity to, in my opinion, expose a lot more anglers to the tournament community, whether it be kayak or boat. We're all out here doing the same thing with BASS, Bassmaster stepping up, offering up the kayak series now. And that's not taken away from KBF, Hobie, anybody. And just a quick shout out too. I know that our good buddy Tim Isaacs is on here and sitting 8th, I believe, overall in points on the Hobie BOS series. Mentioned that there the other day, but shout out to him. We've got anglers here that compete, and you don't have to commit to travel tens of thousand miles a year to be able to compete even in these larger trails. I think what you've talked about so far is really showing folks that you can go even branch out from your local trails and still go compete by fishing your strengths, what you're confident in.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to expand out just a little bit. So what would you tell the angler about that's wanting to maybe take the next step up or a little bit cautious about taking the next step up to a national trail event?
Well, one, don't ever be afraid to jump in one of those events. I personally, you can ask my buddy Coy, who I traveled to the Kentucky Lake with when I won that. Him and his dad, Big Coy and Little Coy. We left there, and I don't know how many times on the way there we're like, hey, we're just coming here to experience go fish this lake that we've heard all about. We ain't got a snowball's chance to go here and against this many people and all these people that's got. I won that event wearing my hunting clothes. I didn't, I did have a good kayak. I had a Jackson, but it wasn't a boat that anybody would say, hey, I'm going to go fish Kentucky Lake. I'm going to go buy a Jackson Coosa HD. That's not what you would want to buy to fish what you're looking at on Kentucky Lake. But that's what I had. that was what I had built myself up to. That's how you get into the sport, you go fish with Mountain State kayak anglers, West Virginia kayak anglers, Southern West Virginia kayak. You pick one of those. It's a lot of fun. Take what you've got and fish it. And then you like it. You're like, hey, this is all right, but I spent the day and I kind of wish I'd have had this. There are so many used kayaks out there on the market nowadays where guys buy something and then the next greatest thing come. It's like I bow hunt a lot. Man, you could buy a top of the line compound bow every year if you just wait till somebody gets tired of it after a year. And so there's so many good options, but you don't have to have all that stuff. But what I recommend is look at the events that are out there. You know what you're good at. I went to Kentucky Lake. You know what I said to myself and Coy said? We're going to Kentucky Lake. Let's find a creek coming into it to fish, because that's what we know what to do. There ain't no way we can go out on that main lake and compete in our boats, because one, the weather was going to be bad, and two, so we went and found something that looked like what we fish at home. And I want it there, fishing with a hodgepodge of 6 different varieties of rods and reels, a kayak. I did buy I bought it was a big expense for me to buy that new Jackson when I bought it. That had just came out. I bought that boat. So I was really comfortable, but I didn't have top of the line gear. I didn't, now I do now, but that's not saying that that's against anybody using anything else. And that does not make me a better angler at all. It makes me fortunate that I'm able to have access to a lot of that stuff now. But that doesn't make me a better angler. So, but what I guess I'm rambling here, but find an event that, there's so many events around the country that maybe are that next level. But pick an event that's on a river. For example, if you love fishing rivers, the Susquehanna Hobie event is right down 90% of the people in West Virginia's alley. And
Absolutely.
Honestly, that what you can, even if you've never been on the Susquehanna. We from West Virginia that have fished the New River, the Greenbrier River, the Gauley River, all these rivers that we fish, they're smallmouth. We know how to catch smallmouth in West Virginia,
Yeah.
And you can go there and you're going to do pretty good, I think, because you're not afraid, because the current there isn't even nearly what most of us spend on in the New River at times, in some sections, granted, but it's not nearly as treacherous in places, but find an event that suits your style and you'll do well. And don't go into it thinking I ain't got a chance. Go into it with the idea of I'm going to go have fun. Don't worry about, if you're hard up and the entry fee is going to break you up, then don't do it, because you can't go to one of these. You don't want to go to one of these, put yourself out, if you don't have $200 to put towards an entry fee, but if you can comfortably do that, go have fun. And I look at it as going on an elk hunt or something. Yeah, you're going to spend all this money to go. You may never see an elk, but it's the experience that you're paying for. If you can go to a big event like that and look at it as an experience, don't look at it as I got to go win the money at this event, because you're going to be disappointed 90% of the time.
90% of the time.
99,
sure, easily 99.
99% of the time, you're going to come home pretty darn disappointed if all you're wanting to get out of it is a payday.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to go at it and learn something about a new body of water, fish a new body of water, spend some time with some good people, then you're going to come out on ahead, because granted, we all spend a lot of money on doing things just for fun. I look at it that way,
I definitely got to agree with you, man. 100%. That's what I tell folks a lot, especially young junior anglers, high school anglers. This is not a gambling event. If you don't have it, you sit out, go fun fish, go spend some time on the water. Time on the water by far will increase your confidence, increase your knowledge about different techniques, how to approach a body of water, you may be extremely familiar with, but go out on subpar condition days.
Yeah.
Go out and start learning how the bite changes depending on conditions, and that's a huge factor of how you can learn on your own without being exposed to new bodies of water, if it's just not within your means. And there's going to come a time that these anglers will be able to step up. The cool thing is, local level from $25 to $50 a tournament. You can go fish a national event for easily, take away your travel costs, throw in $100 entry. A lot of times, 100, 150 will cover your entry a lot of times for a big event, for something bigger than at the what you're used to at the local level. And you, like you said, go find a body of water that, like the Susquehanna. By far, I've yet to make it there myself. I have to listen to Russ beat on all of us West Virginia guys, arguing and the friendly debate of which river's better, Susky or the New. And, of course, they're each wonderful rivers in their own right for what they are. But Susquehanna is a special fishery. When you look back at that fishery years back, that was a dying fishery at one time. They were losing smallmouth faster than they could even figure out what's going on. You look at it now, they got a bass season up in PA and New York. It's amazing.
Yep.
The amount of quality chunk football 17-inch fish that you see folks catch out there. That's a small fish for there. It really is. So, like you said, fish your confidence, bait. When you're out there fun fishing, experiment a little bit. There's definitely a basic pattern to kind of follow. The cooler the water, the more active. The hotter the water, the slower they get. We all know 85 degrees, I'll chuck a buzzbait all day, dude, and they eat it. There's little things that you'll pick up on your own as an angler and learn from. But, man, I'm going to play a little video. I've got Matt's permission to play this. Yeah. So, for everybody still tuning in, we appreciate you tuning in. KBF Champion, National Championship with us tonight, Matt Ball, 2016 champion, recent trail winner, advocate and wonderful advocate for the sport of competitive fishing, and definitely kayak fishing. I know everybody says, man, you're not going to find a better guy to represent the sport of kayak fishing. And Matt, I'm telling you, from me to you as a friend, and I know a lot of the tournament community says this and knows this, but it's always a blessing when you have somebody win an event, because you never know who's going to win. And I'll get to that video. I know I kind of went off course a little bit, but you never know who's going to win an event. Right, so you look back at the first ever KBF National Championship, really was a huge turning point in competitive kayak fishing, competitive kayak bass fishing, national recognition, the explosion in our state, hands down, credited to just having one of our own guys win that event. But to have someone like you, faith, family, fishing, friends, keeping it real for what it needs to be, it's much appreciated. I mean, it's really, in my personal opinion, that is you winning that first event and there's a lot of other folks, Chad Hoover, whole team at KBF, that really knows how to market and push out and recognize the anglers attending and placing well. But, man, sir, you have done a wonderful job representing the movement of kayak tournament fishing, the movement of conservation in tournament fishing. We all know catch, photo, release is the main deal when it comes to kayak tournament fishing. So, man, my hat's off to you.
That.
As a friend, I genuinely mean that, man. And you're here to stay. And that's a wonderful thing to see you right in the mix and growing, and we all grow with you, and that's awesome. So for the ones just tuning in, I'm going to play this video. Matt threw this out just a week or so ago, a couple weeks back. He can't see this, so just bear with us, but I'm going to play this. It's about a minute long. He knows what it is, and he's going to kind of talk us through this. These are the things that you can encounter while you're out there in the water. You don't have a giant bass boat Matt, do you, to
No.
arrange your gear, organize your gear? But we're going to play this. He's going to tell us kind of in a general way kind of what he was had going on here. So we're going to play this. All right, and here you go. Man, so here you are. You're down in the water. You're reaching behind your head. Give the folks an idea of what the heck's going on in this clip with you. This is on the Susquehanna, right?
That was pre-fishing on the Susquehanna. I was going down a ledge, and I had just recently stepped off and just slipped and busted my tail. Slick rocks, moving water, and I was actually fishing those areas, so that's why I didn't just paddle through it, So I had gotten out and was casting and bust my butt, threw the rod down in the boat, got in the front, and just going to lift, go down to, you can see that little pool at the bottom there below me, and that was an area that I was going to spend a lot of time at. Well, I'd laid my rod. I had I think it was a whopper flopper actually. Had a whopper flopper, and I'd reeled it clear up to the end of my rod tip because I was in a hurry, and I threw that thing down the boat. Well, as soon as I drug it off that ledge, that boat came up behind me and hit me in the back, and that rod tip went right up my back, skipped up my life jacket, and hooked me in the neck, the life jacket, and the hat, and it had me hung with all three spots. And I couldn't move my head. And so I'm standing there, and of course I've got a 7-foot rod that I can't reach the bail. And that rod is pinned to my head. And I wasn't in any danger right there, but it was swift water and it was slick. So I had to reach around and I bit my line to try to get my pole off of me because I didn't want to snap my rod. But it was just a good example. I share that because, everybody, I don't consider myself some incredible angler, but a lot of people, because I am in the industry and I do put a lot of stuff out there, they think, well, that only happens to the new guys. No, it happens to me. I've been doing this for a long time now. It shows how quickly you can screw yourself up, on the water. You got to pay attention. You don't, if you're wading with a kayak, and this goes out to a lot of the people that are going to be fishing like the Susquehanna, you're going to be walking a lot in this. The water right now, from that video to now, I think the water is like 6 inches lower now than it was even then. So, and I drug my boat all over that place. So you're going to be walking and you're going to be throwing and casting. You're going to throw that rod back in, but at least hook it down on your reel. Because with that rod sticking out of the front of that boat and you're dragging it around, you're going to get hung up in that thing and it's just going to make a mess. Or in the right situation, if that had been braid and that had caught me and I'd have went down, I'd have had that rod tangled up in me. And of course I had a big leash of paracord around my waist. There's some bad things that some learnings that can come from that for anybody in the sport. And one of them would be, and I'm very blessed to have NRS as one of my big sponsors, and they make some incredible gear. But one thing that I have never put on my life jacket, and I will, is a knife. I just never liked it because it seemed like as I was sitting in the boat, it was catching on me. But in that situation right there, if things could have went a little more wrong, or if I'd have been throwing braid, or I would have needed a knife to get that off of there, or I'd have had to snap my rod. So having a knife, and then in that video, you see me kind of take all that line and just throw it up in the kayak. If I'd have went down and that boat had took off and I got stuck, I had that line wrapped around my waist. So get a knife, carry it on your PFD or in a pocket to where you can get to it easy. NRS makes a great knife that is not going to come off of your life jacket. The NRS Pilot is a great knife. They have a lot of stuff out there. Get you a knife and if you're going to fish moving water, especially, that's bad on me. I didn't have one and never have really wanted one, but it needs to happen. You might need to save yourself or someone else with it,
Yeah. By far, probably any safety related items, and like I said, I hate to always compare the two because anyone that knows me, anyone that follows the page in this show knows that I love everything fishing. I don't care if you're a competitive angler or not, but a knife and safety PFDs, knowing your water, knowing your areas, letting someone know where you're going. Safety is number one.
Absolutely.
And really, we all spend thousands of dollars on our gear. We won't admit that to too many people, our wives and girlfriends. We only spend $5 a rod, we promise.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But I mean, what's $50, $60, $80 for a good knife? And we're talking NRS does. I like I said, I don't carry one, and shame on me for not carrying one. Don't really get a chance to fish as much moving water as I'd like to. But anything, something, any water small, you get your foot stuck in a hole in the cold river with very little current, you're going to still have trouble getting out of that situation. So, I mean, PFD is important. There's a lot of different things.
Yep.
I'm not saying you got to cut your leg off with a knife to get out of there, but a knife is important. The technology is amazing. They got a clip, it snaps in, can sit right there on your PFD out of the way. It's not coming out. You can take a swim in it. It's not coming out. So those things are very important, Matt. Thank you for sharing
another thing
with us.
that I'll tell everybody, especially, I think it's overlooked if you're going to, speaking of gear that is really a necessity, one thing that is an absolute necessity in kayak fishing tournaments is your phone. Okay. And countless people have lost tournaments or not been able to turn fish in tournaments because they have dropped their phone in the water or lost their phone.
Yeah.
If you are fishing in a kayak, I don't care if it's a lake, a river, you need to have your phone tethered to your life jacket, period, or to your boat, to where, because you know as well as I do, you're holding that fish and you're trying to take a picture and that thing starts to flop. Your first instinct is to stop the fish. And there is multiple times people have lost there are so many cell phones sitting in the bottom of lakes from kayak fishermen. It is ridiculous, you know.
Yes, it is.
You know?
And there's a lot of different options out there for anglers now.
But you've got to have a good waterproof cell phone case, or a waterproof cell phone and a tether.
Yeah,
and
some way to tie it to yourself for sure.
That is such a big deal.
Yeah, I 100% agree because we've talked about it here. We hosted the Dock Talk Open, but you take a picture with your phone. Without that phone, you have no fish. That's just as bad as throwing every single rod off your boat into the water. You have to have that phone. And there's
throwing all your fish out of your live well before you get to the weigh, and that's what you did, you know.
Well, and I'm not going to do that, and I don't think anyone else wants to do that. So for sure, that's an important thing, and that's a wonderful, something so simple that a lot of people overlook. For sure. Matt, we're an hour into this thing. You and I could talk for hours, man. We both share that same passion with a lot of the viewers. I'm going to throw this out here. Aaron Finney says, I've seen Matt find out how slick his trailer was at the 2018
I got to tell you that one real quick.
Matt, fill us in on that.
I was at a boat ramp, and there was probably, I know Aaron was there, and I think Patrick Randolph was there, and I can't remember who else. But I had gotten up on the front of Tim. I think it was Tim. Tim was with me, maybe not. I can't remember. But I got up on the trailer, and to pull my boat up on, and I'd backed the trailer in. I was going to pull my boat up in, and when I pulled, my feet slipped out from under me, and I went completely backwards. It was cold. I mean, it was like snowing almost at Kentucky Lake. Went completely underwater. The only thing that got wet on me was my hair, where my hat came off. I had on the NRS dry suit and everything. I went clear underwater, and honestly, I don't know how I didn't break my leg or bust my head open, because I hit hard in front of everybody. So yeah, they got to see me. They're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, and I'm actually not wet." So I had on the whole dry stuff of the NRS, and I looked like a billboard for NRS. That was the year after I won the national championship, so I had better gear that year.
Well, man, what would you Before we wrap this up, one last question for you, and shout out to everybody that's tuned in to this. Unscripted episodes, like I said, are me no notes, guests no notes. Bring someone on, an angler, could be someone that runs an organization or a trail. We just talk fishing. Whatever comes to mind at that moment, that's what we as anglers do. That's what Dock Talk really is. So it's my pleasure, and I really appreciate your time. I know you've worked a long weekend, and it's much appreciated. But for someone that doesn't know anything about kayak fishing, don't even know it's a sport, there's opportunities, futures, careers, scholarships. What would you tell that person that hears about it the first shot? If you could describe it or give them a rundown or your sales pitch to them about kayak tournament fishing, what would you tell them?
Boy, I don't know.
I know
That's a tough question.
I put you on the spot.
That's a tough question. I would tell them that if they enjoy fishing and they enjoy the competitiveness, if they have a competitive side and want to do it and be competitive and fish, there's no greater way to fish a tournament that for an individual getting into it than in a kayak.
Yeah.
That is. But if I will also tell them this. Do not take it too seriously. That is, I guess, my little sermon for the day is, as things grow, so doesn't the drama. And our sport is a lot of people get into it because it's simpler and it's the people. Okay, don't ever let that go. Don't ever let the competitiveness of fishing in a kayak come between you and friends and family and don't make it the most important thing. That, winning a kayak tournament is not, it might give you some notoriety and give you some cool opportunities, but it is not something that, if you take it too seriously, it will ruin it for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And there are
100% agree.
so many people that I've seen that have been in this sport that have done really well, and they're no longer doing it because they just lost. They got sick of the drama. They got sick of the bickering and the sick of my kayak's better than your kayak. My lure company's better, or, don't take yourself so seriously in this sport. Be able to go out and have fun. If you enjoy the competitiveness of it, find somebody to do it with and have fun. If you're going to take it that seriously, you're going to set yourself up for disaster. And honestly, our sport does not need people that are going to be in there to just tear other people down in this sport. And that's kind of what I see a lot of it. And I hate it. I hate that. So I just want to see people out fishing, having fun, get that competitive edge in them and enjoy it. But don't take it too seriously.
Yeah. 100% agree with you. You and I it's funny because I think back at 2016 and a few years before that, and there's a handful of folks that'll see this. They'll say, Shane Raines wasn't even on Facebook going back 5-6 years ago. And I just never bought into living my entire life on screen. Still don't. But this is my passion. We have an avenue for anglers, like-minded anglers, to go out, promote our sport. Bass fishing has never been, up to this point, that top-tier sport that everybody is looking to, even though bass are the most targeted freshwater species on the planet, especially in the U.S. So, you look at that, and it's like we've always sat at that kind of stagnant line of opportunity for the average guy to go out and compete. So to be able to go out and have a good time, just like you said, man, I gotta 100% agree with you on that. Don't take it too serious. You and I think a lot alike. We, of course, we've known each other for a long time, seen it grow from
and I'm
the beginning.
speaking from experience because I've there's been moments in this that I caught myself taking it way too seriously and not having fun. And that would cause me to not do it anymore. I mean, there's
Yeah.
been points in my life, and you talk to some of my close friends in the sport, I've had this conversation, I just don't know if I'm enjoying it right now. That's when you realize, hey, I'm probably doing something wrong. I'm
Yeah.
probably taking it too seriously. If you're doing that, step away from it and go have fun.
Man, and I appreciate you kind of coming out and saying that, because honestly, I was sitting out with Ashley enjoying this beautiful evening that we've had in between the rain, and I was just thinking about your and I's past, as far as starting kind of at the same time, and your success winning that tournament, and here we are 4.5 years later, and I kind of wondered that is and any angler as diehard and starting out kind of grassroots level, and Matt kind of got thrown right into the mix, man. I mean, you winning that tournament, let's be honest. I mean, you got probably thrown into something you didn't expect to.
No.
You and I've spoke about that a little bit in the past, but don't lose sight. I 100% agree with you that don't lose sight in what's important, because I'm sure that got overwhelming at some point.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got a ton, and you've always aligned yourself with what I would consider not sponsors, but partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a partnership. I always respect when you feel like you're family when you're going to somebody that you represent. Yep. So that means a lot, and that's awesome information for the anglers first starting out, man. But we're not going to drag us on. Like I said that already, but man, I want to give you an opportunity like I do everyone else. You represent a ton of people. It's not just you. It's always an army, but want to give you an opportunity to give some shout outs, thank yous, whatever you would like. Give you that time now, brother.
Well, like I say, I want to thank you for having me on here. And, I owe a lot of this, the fact that I can do this to my wife and the kids. They are more important to me than this, but they also know how important this is to me. So they allow me to be away. And, granted, my kids are older now, so they don't want to spend as much time with me anyway. But I thank them for never making me feel like I'm leaving them behind. But, I got Jackson Kayak has been behind me from the start, and Fishing Online is a family to me. Great place to get all your stuff. It's quick, it's fast, and they're just great people. 𝗠𝘁𝘁 𝗠𝘁𝘁, which I don't even want to get started on how that changes your life on a river.
Yeah.
For even fun fishing, I don't care about the whether it's true kayak fishing or not. It is a way to catch more fish more effectively on a river, specifically on a river. You can float a river on your own all day if you want to, but anyway, that's a whole nother story. Bending Branches, Z-Man, 13 Fishing, Yak Attack. Yak Attack's been so good to me. Cal Coast Fishing, Dakota Lithium. If you need batteries for your bass boat or for your kayak, they have an incredible top-notch battery out there. It's just, I can run that 9-inch Lowrance with side scan everything for 2 days on that Dakota Lithium battery that's only this big. It's just amazing what they've got. I'm sure I'm forgetting some others. Bending Branches, but yeah, just and just I thank the Lord for giving me the opportunity, putting me in the position to win the national championship, and then being a strong enough presence in my life to make me realize that I could use it for him in some way. And that's what I've been trying to do. I fail at it. I'm not gonna lie. That's one thing that I know that the good Lord put me in that position, because he said, I know on the way home, he's like, Matt, you just got a national stage to share your faith. And you know how hard that is to do. It is. But I've got to do it. And that's what because that is the literal number one reason for my success in everything I do. So.
Man, much respect for that. And we always appreciate you and your morning prayer at about every event. I always look forward to that personally. I'm going to tell you, I was always raised up in church. It was always an important part of my life growing up. So it's always awesome to see, for them to ask you, lead us in prayer a lot of times. And I always look for your post in the morning before a tournament. You always take that time when it can be super serious, but to also ask for safety and a wonderful day for all of us to remember exactly why it's so great and why we're so blessed to be able to enjoy that. But Matt, listen, I appreciate your time. I really do. You're 2016 KBF National Champion. Your recent KBF Trail winner on Lake Monroe, Indiana. Our very own West Virginian, we're going to say, even though he does have an Ohio address. But genuinely, man, we appreciate your time. I hope everyone enjoyed that. If you have any questions about any of the products that Matt was talking about, 𝗠𝘁𝘕 and 𝗠𝘁𝘕, there are some phenomenal products. I've been looking at potentially maybe doing away with having to run my fish finders and everything to my cranking battery, because that's a big deal. Is we always worried about, if you're trolling a long time, you're running your graphs, it's going to kill your cranking battery. You can easily run a small amp battery just for your graphs. Look into that. Reliability, I do respect what they're doing over there. There's phenomenal opportunities. So reach out to Matt. Any questions about Jackson, bending branches, or any of the products he talked about. But Matt, appreciate your time, brother. Best of luck to everything you got going on, especially the Susquehanna event coming up.
Hope to see you on the water soon. I'll be down at the New River here in a few weeks for the Mountain State Kayak Angler 2 days. So
I'll
be down that way.
We won't tell work, but maybe I'll have to sneak out and try to make that event. Well, Matt, we'll let you go, brother. We appreciate your time.
All right.
And we'll catch up with you soon. You as well. All right. There you go. Matt Ball, your 2016 KBF National Champion. We really appreciate Matt's time. Didn't really know where the conversation was going to go this evening. We covered a ton of stuff: kayak fishing, tournament fishing. I hope each and every one of you can look at this video, this unscripted live, and find something to learn from in your own endeavors, whether it's fun fishing, competitive fishing, bass boat, or kayak. We all have plenty of opportunities to get out there and enjoy the water. But we appreciate Matt's time. Just a quick reminder, of course, your giveaway right here, 2,000 page like giveaway. Share this video if you would like, please. Matt shared a ton of wonderful information with us this evening. So anyone that you may think might need to hear this, definitely share that video right down at the bottom. Share this video. And like Dog Talk West Virginia's Facebook page. That is a very important thing. Like Dog Talk West Virginia Facebook page. Go to the pinned post. That is the very top post on the feed of the page once you log on to Dog Talk. Comment, pick me. Once we hit 2,000 likes, we'll be giving away all of these prizes listed and more. There's a few things that's kind of popped up since I announced. So very excited. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We won't take up any more of your time. Enjoy your week coming up. Stay tuned. I am on vacation this week. Going to try to bring you a live sometime midweek. We're going to look at service. It may not be the traditional live like you're seeing here, but we're going to definitely come at you live at some point during the week since we have time to do so. But thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate all your support. And until next time, you know what I always say. We'll see you on the water. Y'all have a great night.